There's probably nothing really more frightening than the sound of that door shutting on you and the echo. You're thinking about what you were just doing, what you just ate for breakfast. Now you're on this new path, a path full of uncertainty and fear. I didn't know anything about the system, really. I didn't know anything about penal codes, law. So when you're hearing phrases like being charged with first-degree murder, I had no concept of what first-degree murder was whatsoever. Only thing I knew, I was a passenger in the vehicle where a young person unfortunately lost their life. It was just mind-boggling that on one hand, I'm determined to be sophisticated enough to be tried as an adult, but don't have any adult privileges. Not being allowed to speak in court, not being allowed to represent my side of the story, not even having space to even ask for clarification of what's happening. I didn't get that from my public defender. I tried many a times, and when I'm in court and I'm hearing all this jargon, I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, what does this mean? What does that mean? He just, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. What do you mean don't worry about it? Like, what's going on? Then when I try to speak to the judge, he'd tell my public defender, remind your client to be quiet. If he has something to say, tell it to you. But I'm like, but you're not saying anything. So it felt very much like a child. You know, it's like when you're little and your parents tell you, go to your room. You don't have a voice, you don't have a say-so. By the time a young person is 14, where in California, they're at an age to where they're being directly, some of them being directly charged as adults. There was no consideration taken into a fact that at 14, you could have accumulated as much as a decade of trauma. When I grew up on the street, right over here, over your left shoulder, I seen a dead body stay in that street, lay dead right there for 8 hours. I seen cars driving by, going around it. No one stopped, no one checked on this person, no one called the police.
And what did you take away from that? What was the message you took from that?
When you're a young kid and you're seeing a body that's dead that looks just like you and nobody cares. When I was jumped here, this is 1990, I was 16. But what made this very significant was two things. First of all, the incident I showed you when I was 12 and the reaction of being shot at and what it began to ingrain in my mind, this need to react and react strongly to protect myself. Second of all, by the time 1990 rolled around, I had at least a dozen friends that was murdered. So the violence was coming to a younger demographic. It was folks as young as 14. My first friend was 14 when he got killed. And people being 14 killing people. So we came over and we seen them hanging on the corner. So we drove by, did a U-turn, and we pulled up. I was about to get out the car. My buddy was in the back seat, and he was pretty hammered. So he stuck his gun out the window, and I believe he was trying to shoot in the air. He's behind me, so I can't see him. I'm in the front seat. But the gun was a semi-automatic, and it jammed. So when he pointed the gun down to try to get it to unjam, it went off, began to discharge. So a number of shots was fired, pop, 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 pop. One of the bullets hit the ground, hit a young person in the leg, ricocheted off his thigh bone into his stomach, and he died from internal bleeding. Then it was on the news that night, so when we found out that the person was 13, it was horrible. It was just like, wow, being involved with an innocent person losing their life. You can't really put into words that feeling, you know. And I immediately thought back to being 12, and that could have easily been me. So it was very tough, and I haven't been the same since. You learn bad things, what you do. They got a saying like, they put you in prison to just teach you to be a better criminal because the environment was hostile. There was nothing designed to encourage people to rehabilitate. I don't think that was even a word ever, I even heard that word rehabilitate, not one time. I'll be clear on one thing. It was not the prison that changed it. I didn't think the prison made me harder. It did. It had nothing to do with me being in a position to turn my life around. There's nothing in there designed to do that whatsoever. the reason why I love doing it, because I feel like each time I help somebody, I'm actually helping myself. I think about what was missing from my life and what I wish I would have had. It's about mentorship, but above all, I think it's about understanding and validation. So to be able to be in a position to where I can use my life experience to empower other people so they don't have to go through what I went through, or they have gone through something, to encourage them that their life is not over. First of all, people are not beyond redemption. Second of all, there is a real opportunity to improve community safety. The problem is we don't invest in programs and services that help people on the front end. We always look at it from the back end. But if we're more serious about the front end, with education, with programs, after school programs, making sure we meet our young people where they at and recognize what they're going through, then not only will they be in a better position to live a good life, but our communities overall will be much safer.